Good morning. I will start first by solving a few sums. So the first sum, calculate the probability that at least 9 out of a group of 10 people who have been infected by serious disease will survive if the survival probability of the disease is 70%. So here they have given us that probability of survival is 70%, and they have said that 9 out of a group of 10, we have to find the probability that 9 survive out of a group of 10. So we have our n is equals to 10. Total 10 people were selected. So this is nothing but our binomial distribution. So we say x follows our binomial 10 comma 0.7. We'll say probability that at least 9 survives. So at least 9 would be x greater than or equal to 9. At least 9. That is nothing but probability x is equals to 9 and probability x is equals to 10. At least 9, right? So that becomes a 10c9, then 0.7 raised to 9 and 0.3 raised to 1 plus all 10 survive. So 10c10, 0.7 raised to 10 and 0.3 raised to 0. Actually 10c9 is 10 because nc1 is equals to n, or you can just use your c. So we have 14.93, or actually 0.149308. So this becomes our answer. Now in the same question, if I just ask you find the probability of no one surviving, find the probability of no one surviving will just be probability x is equals to 0. No one surviving would just be 10c0, 0.7 raised to 0 and 0.3 raised to 10. So it's basically 0.3 raised to 10, all of them dying. So that becomes 0.00000059049. Clearly, probability that no one would survive is so small that likelihood of that happening is almost impossible, right? So this is how we make decision using our distributions, using our past data, using our statistical analysis. We'll do a few more sums. We'll do question number 10. Start solving. So the question number 10 says a large portfolio consists 20% class A policies, 50% class B policies, and 30% class C policies. 10 policies are selected at random from the portfolio. Calculate the probability that there are no policies of class A among the randomly selected. Now here we do not have only two categories. We do not have success and failure. But when I'm considering only A, so if I say XA, if I'm only considering A, I can assume probability of success for A is 20% and failure is going to be the rest, that would be 80%. So I can say XA follows binomial and I'm selecting 10 policies in total. So N becomes 10 and probability of success for A becomes 0.2. Same way, if I am considering B, I can say B is following binomial distribution with 10 comma 0.5 and XC follows binomial 10 comma 0.3. For first part, calculate the expected calculate the probability that there is no policy of class A among randomly selected 10. That means probability that our XA is equals to 0, no policies. That would be our 10C0, 0.2 raised to 0, 0.8 raised to 10. We'll have 0.107374. And second part, second we have A and B. For A, calculate the expected number of class B policies among the randomly selected 10. That means they are asking us to find expected value of our XB. Expected value will be n theta. That becomes R 10 into 0.5, that will be 5. Then B part, calculate the probability that there is no more than 5 class B policies among the randomly selected 10. No more than 5. That means we want less than or equal to 5. We are talking about probability X less than or equal to 5. Right? No more than 5 policies. So we'll say this is nothing but probability X is equals to 0 plus probability X is equals to 1 plus probability X is equals to 2 So we'll be adding up these 6 values, or you can do 1 minus greater than values as well. That way you'll have a little bit less, but this is how we'll be solving it. Okay. To find these values, now one of the easier way of finding these values, so this is all B, this is for B, right? So I'll say XB, XB, XB. These are all for B. Now the other way would be, we have an our formula table book. In the end, we have tables for binomial distribution as well. So I go to the end, that we have 190 pages, and I go up and you will see probabilities for binomial distribution. We have probabilities for binomial distribution. Here they have given us N and here they have given us P, that is our probability. We have N and P. So we want first N is equals to 10. We'll go for N is equals to 10. This is our N is equals to 10. And probability is 0.5 for B. So probability 0.5. So we have this part of our table that we'll be using. In this part, how do we find our probabilities? So we'll say we want, first of all, look at this particular formula. It is given probability x is less than equal to x. So they have given us less than equal to probabilities here. They have not given us single values. They have given us less than equal to. But we do need to find probability xb less than equal to 5. So all we have to do is see our x is equals to 5 when n is 10. Okay, so this is that value, x is equals to 5 when n is 10, and we want probability 0.5. So I think this is that value. Yeah, this is that value, 0.6230. We can use the tables to find this less than equal to probabilities directly. But obviously you can see we do not have all possible probabilities. We have only limited values. We do not have all values. For n also we have limited values. We do not have all values. We have 3 tables for this. So it's n starts from 2, goes till 10, then we have 12, and then we have 20. So we have only limited values. For any values other than this, you will have to solve using our equation or our formula for PDF. Okay, so we'll solve this question number 6. So let's solve question number 6. We have supposed that in a group of insurance policies which are independent as regards occurrence of claim, 20% of the policies have incurred claim during the last year. An auditor is examining the policies in the group one by one in random order until 2 policies with claims are found. Now see, first of all, they have given us probability. So theta is given 0.2. Then an auditor is examining the policy in the group one by one in random order until 2 policies with claim are found. So as soon as we find 2 policies, we stop our investigation. That means this is nothing but our negative binomial distribution. So we are stopping when we find 2 successes. So our k is 2. So k is equals to 2 and theta is 0.2. So 0.2. And whether this is type 1 or type 2. So this is type 1 because we are trying to find the number of policies, or actually we should first see the question. So we'll say determine the probability that exactly 5 policies have to be examined until 2 policies of claims are found. So if we are calculating the number of policies, then it becomes type 2. If the question was that we find 3 failures before 2 successes, before our second success, then it would have been type 2. So here it is type 1 because we are calculating the number of trials. If you don't write anything, we assume that it is type 1. Okay, or you can write type 1, type 2. So let's find probability that our x will be 5. For negative binomial, our formula was x minus 1, so that will be 4. C, k minus 1, that would be 1. And then we'll have theta raised to k, so that is 0.2 raised to k. K is 2. and 1 minus theta, that is 0.8 raised to number of failures. So we will have 3 failures. What's the second part? Find the expected number of policies to have to be examined until 2 policies with claim are found. So again, this is negative binomial. So we just need to find expected value. Expected value for a negative binomial is nothing but k by theta for type 1. That becomes 2 by 0.2. That would be 10. So the expected number of policies that we'll have to examine before we get, or for our second success, that would be 10. So this is the difference between our binomial and negative binomial. How do we find the difference? The difference is that in negative binomial, we will be counting our values till we get a k number of successes. In this case, we have 2 successes. There is no n given here. There is no value that says the out of these many total number of trials, we need these many successes. That would have been binomial distribution. Now let's get back to our distributions. Yesterday we saw geometric distribution. I'll take geometric distribution type 1 into account, and we know our probability distribution function for geometric distribution was 1 minus theta raised to x minus 1 into theta. This was for x going from 1 to infinity. So this was our type 1. Now let's say if I need to find probability x is greater than x. So when we say probability x is greater than x, what do we actually mean? Now in our geometric distribution, we were trying to find the number of trial that would be our first success. So our x was nothing but the number of trial that was our first success. So if I say x is greater than x, what do I mean here? I mean that my first success is greater than x. If my first success is greater than x, that means I have at least x failures. So this means having at least x failures. That is why first success is greater than x. Just give me 1 minute, okay? Okay, huh. So probability x greater than x just means that we have at least x failures. So that would be nothing but probability x is equals to x plus 1. So greater than x would be that x is x plus 1, or first success is x plus 2, or first success is x plus 3, and so on till infinity. This can go on forever because there is no limit for our x, will go on forever. I can substitute, can say this, if I substitute it here, I'll get 1 minus theta raised to x into theta, 1 minus theta raised to x plus 1 into theta, 1 minus theta raised to x plus 2 into theta, and so on. So this is nothing but our geometric progression where our first term is this and our ratio is 1 minus theta. So we know infinite GP is nothing but a upon 1 minus r. We saw that yesterday. So we'll say this is nothing but r 1 minus theta raised to x into theta by 1 minus of 1 minus theta. 1 minus of 1 minus theta is nothing but theta. So I am getting 1 minus theta raised to x. Probability x greater than x is 1 minus theta raised to x. You can definitely write that. I was just going for geometric distribution. This was easy to calculate. That is why I did this. So this is actually equal to r1 minus of probability x less than equal to x. Right. So if you need to find probability x less than equal to x, you will get 1 minus of 1 minus theta raised to x. This is the equation that you are going to get. Now let's find probability x greater than x plus n given x is greater than n. Now what does this actually mean? We said this is nothing but probability of having at least x failures. So this means probability of having at least x plus n failures. So we'll say probability of having at least x plus n failures when given part is that we already have n failures. So we already have n failures. We are trying to find the probability of having x more failures. So this is nothing but so here we'll say probability of x greater than x plus n given x greater than n will be equal to, now we know the conditional probability formula, so we'll say x greater than x plus n intersection greater than n upon probability of x greater than n. Now how can we find this? If I say my timeline, this is my n, this is represented by x greater than n, and let's say this is x plus n, this portion is represented by x greater than x plus n. So what is common between them? Everything here is common between them, right? So everything that is greater than x plus n is common between them. So this is nothing but probability x greater than x plus n by probability x greater than n. You can see it logically as well. Here we have x greater than n, and here we have x greater than x plus n. So whatever is greater than x plus n is also greater than n. Whatever is greater than x plus n is also greater than n. So what is common between them? Everything that is greater than x plus n must be common between those two values. Now we can substitute this value. We'll get this as 1 minus theta raised to x plus n upon 1 minus theta raised to n. Now n cancels out and we'll be left with 1 minus theta raised to x. That is also equal to probability x is less than x. So we are getting that our probability x greater than x plus n given x greater than n is equals to probability x. This is not less than, this is greater than x. So what does this actually mean? This means probability of having at least x plus n failures when we already have n failures, that must be equal to probability of having x more failures. So this means probability of having at least x plus n failures when we already have n failures is probability of having at least x failures. Okay. Now what is the significance of this? Now here you can see that our final answer is independent of n. So our final answer is independent of n. That means what has already occurred, now n has already occurred, is not affecting what will occur, right? I can have ns2, I can have ns5, I can have ns10, I can have ns200, does not matter. My final probability will not change. It is not at all dependent on the value of n. So what has already occurred is not affecting what will occur in the future. So this is called as memoryless property. Memoryless property. Now there are only 3 distributions that we are going to study that have this memoryless property. The first is our geometric, then we have negative binomial, and the third is exponential. So in this, If we have something that has already occurred, we can skip that. We don't need to use that to find our future value. So our past values are not at all affecting our future values, right? So that is called as our memoryless property. No other distribution works the same way. I cannot say for binomial distribution that probability of getting let's say 5 successes out of 10 trials, given that I already have 3 successes in 5 trials, should be equal to probability of getting 2 more successes in the next 5 trials. This will not be equal for binomial distribution. Okay, so probability of getting 5 successes out of 10 tosses, where I know that I've already got 3 successes out of 5 tosses, will definitely not be equal to probability of getting 2 successes in the next 5 tosses. Okay, so therefore what happens is it is not following memoryless property. Whereas geometric, negative binomial, and exponential, these three follow memoryless properties. What has already occurred does not affect what will happen next. I'll take an example. Now we said probability, if you remember yesterday's probability of having a girl child is 0.49. I'll say find the probability of a woman let's say woman's first daughter be her fifth child be her fifth child given she already has 2 sons. She already has 2 sons. So this says probability that her x, so first of all this is geometric distribution because we are talking about our first success. We are saying x follows geometric, probability is going to be 0.49. Then we need to find probability that x will be equal to 5 given x is greater than 2. Using this memoryless property, we can say this is nothing but probability x will be equal to 3. We can skip these two values. Okay, so we can skip these two values. So this would be nothing but 2 failures, so 1 minus theta square, and then on a success that would be theta. So this becomes the probability. Is it clear? This is our memoryless property. We can solve negative binomial distribution sums this way as well. We can skip whatever has happened before. We can literally skip. So here if I say, if I use the same question, probability of having a girl child is this much, find probability of a woman's, let's say, third daughter be her fifth child, given she already has two daughters. She has now two daughters. Again, it does not matter. These were successes. Now, these are not failures, these are successes. But again, because our past outcomes do not affect our future outcomes, that is why we will skip this and we'll say this is same as having geometric distribution. Okay, so this in actuality was a negative binomial distribution, right? This was our third success being our fifth trial. So this was nothing but our negative binomial distribution. But because first two successes have already happened, I can skip that and I can say x follows geometric theta, that is our 0.49, and we will say this is nothing but probability x is equals to 3. That would be again 0.127449, because whatever has already occurred is not going to affect what will happen next. That is the point here. So I'll explain again both the parts. We said here probability, find the probability that woman's first daughter be her fifth child given she already has two sons. Because of memoryless property, we should skip the information that she already has two sons. So two children are already gone, so we are worried only about the next three children. So the next three children, we need two sons and then a daughter, right? So that is why we had two failures and then a success. Two sons and then a daughter, right? Now here we are using the same information and we are saying the third daughter be her fifth child given she already has two daughters. Again, we should skip the information that she already has two daughters. So we are worried about the next daughter. Third daughter would be her next daughter. So it's her first success in the next three children. So again, we will have two failures. So that will be 1 minus theta square, and then a success, that would be theta. So it's exactly the same thing here and here. So let's move forward. So these were our few discrete distribution. There is one more discrete distribution that is left, and that is Poisson distribution. So we'll talk about Poisson distribution. Now Poisson distribution was created from binomial distribution. Now we know our binomial distribution. We say our binomial n comma theta, where our probability of finding probability of x was nothing but our ncx theta raised to x into 1 minus theta raised to n minus x. Now here, if let's say I need to find 100, if my n is 1000, let's say, okay, if n is large 1000, and I need to find probability of getting 502 values. So I will get 1000 C 502. Let's see what that value is going to be. 1000 C 502 is going to be 2681, and then something, then more, and something more, and then something more, and finally 0000. So 1000 C 502 is actually this value. I actually calculated it and I have written all of these values correctly. You can see that wherever you can find it. Okay. So 1000C 502 is this particular value that we can say is 2.681 into 10 raised to 299. Okay. So it seems a little bit large. It is large enough for us to use. Usefulness would be a little bit difficult and calculation will be a little bit more difficult, right? So it becomes very difficult for us to calculate such a large value and also use such a large value. You can imagine we'll be multiplying that to whatever theta we are going to get here. So for such values where n is very large, it is very difficult to find probability directly from our binomial distribution. So what we do is we convert it into some other distribution. One of the distribution was Poisson distribution. So we say that for n large, now for our course we assume n large as 100 or more, but in actuality 100 is not a very large value, but for our course 100 we'll assume it to be large value. And we say for theta small, how do we determine theta will be small? It is a relative term. So we'll have n theta less than 5 or n1 minus theta less than 5. We say our binomial distribution will follow Poisson distribution. It is an approximation. It is not an exact value. That is why I've written here approximately. Okay. So we say our binomial distribution will follow Poisson distribution where our lambda, there is only one parameter, that is lambda, that is equals to our n theta. Now we say that as n becomes larger and larger and larger, this approximation becomes much more perfect. It becomes much more accurate. So as our n tends to infinity, our theta must also become smaller and smaller and smaller. Then we say that binomial distribution starts becoming more and more like a Poisson distribution. Or you can say this becomes perfect conversion. So in actuality, we will never have n is equals to infinity and theta is equals to 0. We will never have infinite trials and we will never have probability of success equal to 0. So theoretically, our binomial will be converted into Poisson perfectly only in these two conditions. That will not happen in practical terms. Now let's learn what is our Poisson distribution. So our Poisson distribution, we say x follows Poisson and we have one parameter that is lambda, where x is nothing but our number of successes and lambda we say is rate of success. Now what is a rate of success? I'll take an example. Let's say we are traveling in a car and we see averagely 3 trees passing by each minute. If we see 3 trees passing by each minute, what does that mean? That means we have averagely 3 trees per minute. That becomes a rate of something. So anything per time becomes rate. So 3 trees per minute becomes our rate of success. The probability x is equals to x is equals to lambda raised to x e raised to minus lambda upon x factorial. Now this comes from converting our binomial distribution into Poisson distribution using limits. The limits is we don't have limit as part of our course, so we will not go into how do we convert it, but we'll directly use it. Now our physical calculator will not give us such a value. Okay, you're correct about it. When you use your physical calculator, or most of the calculators will not give such a large value, but this calculator did give me those values and I used it to find or to write those values. You can see I literally wrote 300 terms from here. So this calculator did give me those values. Now, physical calculator does have limitation of how much values it can store and how many values it can calculate. Our computers are much more advanced. It can calculate a large values. That is why it gave me an actual value. In our physical calculator, it will say error, math error, because it cannot calculate such large values. Let's go to our Poisson distribution. We say X follows Poisson lambda, where lambda is nothing but a rate, and we say probability that X is equals to X is nothing but our lambda raised to X e raised to minus lambda by X factorial, where X goes from 0 to infinity. So in actuality, Poisson distribution was calculated for approximating binomial distribution, but we find Poisson distribution a lot in our practical life. So we use Poisson distribution other than using binomial distribution as well. So it is used in itself also a lot. So we'll understand how does it work. First, we'll find our expected value. So our expected value, our formula. So that gives me X going from 0 to infinity. Now here, if I put X is equals to 0, I'll get the whole term 0. And from X is equals to 1, what I'll do is I'll remove my X from numerator as well as denominator. So I have substituted my first term. I'll get 0, and then plus I'll have summation X is equals to 1 to infinity lambda raised to X e raised to minus lambda by X minus 1 factorial. Why did I not just remove X for X is equals to 0? That is because in denominator I will have X minus 1 factorial, and 0 minus 1 gives me a negative value, and factorial cannot be calculated for negative values. Anyways, this is just conceptual. It does not make much difference. Now I can substitute this value. I will take e raised to minus lambda outside. I'll get, when I substitute 1, I get a lambda, then lambda square by 1, lambda cube by 2 factorial, lambda raised to 4 by 3 factorial, and so on till infinity. I can take lambda outside and I'll get lambda times e raised to minus lambda. Inside I'll have 1 plus lambda square by 2 factorial, lambda cube by 3 factorial, and so on. Now this you might have recognized, we call it as exponential series or a Taylor series. Okay, Taylor series, there are a lot of series in Taylor series, but this is called as an exponential series. This is given in our table formula, table book on page number 2. So on page number 2, you have some mathematical formulas, and you can see our exponential function e raised to x will be equal to this. So therefore, you're correct that we'll get e raised to lambda. So that gives me nothing but lambda. Expected value becomes lambda. Now to find our variance, we'll find expected value of x square, but we'll not find expected value of x square directly. We'll be finding expected value of x into x minus 1. Why? I will explain that later. And we'll say this must be equal to expected value of x square minus x. That would give us expected value of x square minus expected value of x. And then I can rearrange to find expected value of x square. We'll find expected value of x into x minus 1. This would be summation of, this is just a function of x. So for function of x, we say expected value of our gx is nothing but summation for all values of x, g of x, probability of x, right? So here we'll just have x into x minus 1 into probability of x, that was our lambda raised to x, e raised to minus lambda, and x factorial, our x going from 0 to infinity. Now here when I put x is equals to 0, here I will get 0. When I put x is equals to 1, I get this as 0. So I will remove my two values, and then from x is equals to 2 to infinity, what we are going to do is we are going to remove both of these values from our x factorial. We'll get lambda raised to x, e raised to minus lambda by x minus 2 factorial. Again, the same reason, I do not want any negative factorials. That is why I've removed 0 and 1 value first. I'll expand. I get e raised to lambda outside. I'll get lambda square plus lambda cube plus lambda raised to 4 by 2 factorial, lambda raised to 5 by 3 factorial, and so on. We'll take lambda square out, and we have 1 plus lambda square by 2 factorial, lambda cube by 3 factorial, and so on till infinity. Again, this is our exponential series. This was e raised to minus lambda, and here we'll get e raised to lambda. So this gives us lambda square. So our expected value of x square will just be our lambda square plus expected value of x, that was lambda. We can see that from here. Now our variance, now we did this, we found this instead of finding expected value of x square, just because it's easier to cancel out x and x minus 1 from x factorial. If we had x square, it would not have been easy to solve this particular portion. It would have been difficult. It's not impossible, it's just difficult. It's much more lengthy. So variance, so our variance becomes lambda, right? So we said for large values of n, binomial distribution converts into Poisson distribution, right? So we said binomial n theta converts into Poisson lambda, or Poisson lambda, such that lambda is equals to n theta. So variance for binomial distribution, first of all, expected value was n theta, and here expected value is lambda, that is also n theta. So that works out. But variance for binomial distribution was n theta into 1 minus theta, whereas variance for Poisson distribution is still lambda, that is our n theta. Can you tell me for what value of theta can my n theta into 1 minus theta be equal to n theta? For what value of theta will this be equal? There is only one value, that is theta is equals to 0, no other value, right? So our theta has to be 0 such that our binomial distribution becomes our Poisson distribution. And that is why we said that, first of all, our binomial is converted approximately. You can write this way approximately, or this is how we write approximately. You will find this written in our books. Poisson lambda, it converts approximately and only when n is large and theta is small. So only when theta becomes 0, then that becomes a perfect conversion. Okay. And only when n becomes infinite, this becomes a perfect conversion. That is why we take it as approximate conversion, not a perfect conversion. Okay. And also binomial goes from 0 to n, but our Poisson goes from 0 to infinity. That is because here our assumption is n is equal to infinity, right? So that is why our limits have also changed. Okay, now first we'll solve some questions of Poisson distribution, and then we'll see conversion from binomial to Poisson. Okay, we'll see that later on. We'll say in a football match, the average number of goals scored is 3. Find the probability first. I'll say 5 goals were scored in one match. Second, 15 goals were scored in 3 matches. And then third, at least 5 goals were scored in one match. Okay, so these are the 3 different questions that we'll solve. So first of all, how do we know that this is a Poisson distribution? So we will find a lambda. Lambda is nothing but rate of success per time. So rate just means it has to be per time. Now here I don't see a per time. I said in a football match the average number of goals scored is 3. If I said average number of goals scored 3 per day, per minute, per hour, this is per time. But I can assume a football match is a unit of time. It is a fixed amount of time. So 3 goals per match is also a rate, right? So our lambda is nothing but 3. We are saying our x follows Poisson 3. For the first one, we need to find probability that x will be equal to 5. That means 5 goals will be scored in one match. 5 goals scored in one match. We'll say our lambda raised to 5 e raised to minus lambda by 5 factorial. Now factorial, you will find factorial sign somewhere. Here in this calculator, it is above x raised to minus 1, and that is also the same place in our actual calculator. So you will press shift and then you will press that x raised to minus 1, you'll get factorial sign. I made a mistake. Here it should be e raised to minus 3, because our lambda is equals to 3. Okay, I can show you the graph of Poisson distribution where our lambda will be 3. I'll just show you this. This is how the graph will look like, and probability that our x will be 5 is this. This is our probability. That would be just above 1, just above 0.1. You can see that here. You can see probability of Poisson distribution has a very positively skewed type of a curve. It goes till infinity, but the probability becomes so small that after some time we do not calculate the values. You can see it becoming so small that it is going till infinity, but probability is almost negligible after a few values. And our expected value is nothing but our lambda, that gives us 3. This is our expected value. If you want to calculate your median, you'll have 0.05. Let's assume this is 0.05. This will be a little bit higher, but see 0.05, then this becomes 0.15. So this is 2. And let's assume this is 2.25. So these three values added up comes out to be around 0.45. So our 0.5 will be also 3. So very rarely we find median for our discrete distribution, so you don't have to worry too much about it. I'm just giving you an idea. Now let's calculate our second. Now whenever we have such values where, now see here, instead of calculating in one time period, we have to calculate in 3 time periods. Whenever we have multiple time periods, what we do is we just multiply it with our lambda. So if we score 3 goals in one match, then in 3 matches averagely we'll score 9 goals. We'll say 3 goals in one match, then 9 goals in 3 matches. So this becomes our average. So our lambda, new lambda, I will write it as lambda 1 or lambda 2, let's say. Lambda 2 becomes 9 now. Now this is called as Poisson process. What happens is we just multiply with whatever time we are going to get. So if, let's say, I say averagely a bus, averagely, let's say we are sitting in a bus stop and averagely we see 5 buses per hour. So how many buses will we see in 5 hours? So averagely we'll say 5 into 5, 25 buses. So our lambda becomes 25 if you want to calculate for 5 hours. And if I want to calculate for half an hour, all I have to do is multiply it with half, and I'll say 2.5 buses in half an hour. So similarly, what we do is we just multiply by the time factor to our lambda to get our new lambda. So we'll say our x2 will follow Poisson lambda 2. here probability that x2 will be equal to 15. Probability that x2 will be equal to 15, that will be just r lambda 2 raised to 15 e raised to minus lambda 2 by 15 factorial. Probability becomes 0.01943 You can see, if I said scoring 5 goals in one match and scoring 15 goals in 3 matches, they seem equivalent type of values, but you can see the probability has decreased a lot. Here it was almost 10%, and here it is almost 2%. So probability has decreased. So here if I say 150 goals in 30 matches, then it will be much smaller. That is mainly because we are going far away from our mean, right? Here our mean, our average was 3 and we were saying 5. So the difference was 2. So that was okay. Here we had 9 as our average and we were talking about 15 values. So the difference now is of 6 goals. So in 3 matches, scoring extra 6 goals is much more unlikely than scoring extra 2 goals in one single match. Because sometimes that might happen, but every time that may not happen, right? So one time ho sakta hai ki in a particular match we score 5 goals, but every match scoring around 5 goals becomes more and more difficult. So if I say 30 matches, the probability of getting 150 goals will be much smaller. But if I need to calculate, I will say in 30 matches, I will have 90 goals average. So our lambda 3 becomes 90. Our x3 will be Poiseuille lambda 3. And if we need to calculate 150 goals, that would be lambda 3 raised to 150 e raised to minus lambda 3 upon 150 factorial. And you can see the probability of that happening is 0.00000000196. Yeah, in our physical calculator, we might get error because it's a very small value. Okay, or actually our 150 factorial is a very large value. Just try that. Just try 150 factorial. Most likely it would be an error because it's a very large value. You can see here it's a very large value. So our physical calculator is not able to calculate it. Okay, it's giving us math error. So I'm just showing you, this was just for our comparison purposes. This was just for our comparison purposes. It's a very small value. So that is why I did not write this as a question, because I knew most likely it will be an error because 150 factorial is a very large value for our physical calculator to calculate. So I'll skip this. But you understand that we have such low probability because doing this extra 2 goals every match for 30 matches would be very, very, very difficult. And the third part is we need to find, again we come back to our 1, so x follows Poiseuille 3, and we need to find probability of at least at least 5 goals. At least 5 goals, that means x is greater or equal to 5. That would be probability x equal to 5 plus x is equal to 6 plus x is equal to 7, and so on, and this goes on till infinity. Obviously we'll not be adding infinite values, so what we'll do is this is 1 minus probability x less than 5. Now whenever we have discrete values, remember our values are going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So there is no value in between. There is no value between 0 and 1. There is no value between 1 and 2, no value between 2 and 3, and similarly no value between 4 and 5. So when I say probability x less than 5, I am not including 5. So the next value that I am including is actually 4. There is no value between 4 and 5. So probability x less than 5 is nothing but 1 minus probability x less than equal to 4. So whenever I write discrete values, I never write less than. Whenever I have less than, I convert it directly to less than equal to. Similarly, if I had probability x greater than 13, I'm not including 13. So the next value that I'm including is x greater than equal to 14. I never write just greater than or just less than, because we can get wrong answers. We might include 5 here, we might include 13 here, but that would be wrong. So consciously I have started doing this, that I, for discrete values, I always write less than equal to or greater than equal to. So here we want 1 minus, we'll say probability going from 0 to 4, all those values will be adding up. So first of all, probability x is equal to 0. That is our lambda raised to 0 e raised to minus lambda by 0 factorial. 0 factorial is 1, so this is just e raised to minus lambda. We'll calculate that. Lambda is 3. This is our probability. And we'll say probability x is equals to 1. Probability x is equals to 1 would be lambda e raised to minus lambda by 1 factorial. So I can say this is nothing but lambda into probability x is equals to 0. So I will just multiply lambda, that was 3, to get 0.14936112. Then probability x is equals to 2, lambda square e raised to minus lambda by 2 factorial. I can say that is nothing but lambda by 2 into probability of 1. One lambda has been multiplied and 2 has been divided. So again I can use this answer and I can say into, I have to do lambda, that is 3, divide by 2. We get 0.22400418. And probability x is equals to 3 will be lambda cube e raised to minus lambda by 3 factorial. So all I did was multiply another lambda and divide by 3 from my probability x is equals to 2. Again into 3 divided by 3 will give me exactly the same value. X is equals to 4 would be lambda raised to 4 e raised to minus lambda by 4 factorial. That would be lambda by 4 into probability x is equals to 3. Into 3 divided by 4. Right? So I can write a general value for Poisson distribution. I can say x is equals to n must be equal to lambda by n into probability x is equals to n minus 1. Using the previous value, we can find our next value in Poisson distribution. This is very helpful in such questions. Now I can add all of these and find probability x we wanted greater than equal to 5. That was our 1 minus, and we'll add all of these values, and I'll say this answer plus 0.22400418. This is 2 times, and then plus 0.1493612 plus 0.049787. Just say 1 minus of answer, and this is our actual probability. So even though we say that averagely 3 goals are scored each match, probability that 5 or more goals will be scored in one match is around 18.5%. So there is still a chance that 5 or more goals would be scored, right? How much chance? Around 18.5% chance. So we'll say almost in around 1000 matches, 185 matches will have scores that will show us goal scored more than or equal to 5. So this is important for Poisson distribution. Now using this, you can also find your mode. Your mode is what? Mode is, you can definitely find median, and you can also find mode. Median would be what? You will be finding the cumulative probabilities. So you will add these two, and then you will add this. You will get almost, if we add just the first 3, I will have 0.049787 plus 0.1493612. These are nothing but our cumulative probabilities. So this becomes less than equal to 1, and plus 0.22400418. This is our less than equal to 3, and if I add less than equal to 2, and if I add this, it will become less than equal to 3, and clearly it will pass our 0.5 mark. So that means 0.5 is coming at x is equals to 3. So therefore our median becomes x is equals to 3. That is our median. And what about our mode? Mode is the highest frequency. Now every distribution that we are going to see except for one, I'll talk about that later. Okay, we will find that they are unimodal distribution. What does unimodal distribution means? That means that we have one single mode. Unimodal distribution means we have one single mode. See, this was our Poisson distribution. We have one single mode and we do not have any other modes. We'll not find our equation going back up and down. That is not how it is going to work. So we'll have only one single mode. But in discrete distribution, we might have two values that are exactly same. Like in this particular case, we have two values that are exactly same on the top. So this is sort of bimodal, but not exactly, because they are sharing a single mode. So here, if I want to write mode, I will have shared mode, that is x is equals to 2 and x is equals to 3. So this is how we can find mode as well. What we do is we just start finding our probabilities, and you will find a value after which probability starts decreasing. As soon as you find probability start decreasing, you know that you have reached your mode. So this is a shared mode. This shared mode is possible only in discrete distribution, not in continuous. We'll see continuous distributions later. Won't mode always be lambda and lambda minus 1? No. Not lambda and lambda minus 1. Not really. Okay. So mode is not always lambda. It is around lambda, that is correct, but it is not always lambda. Okay. So sometimes it might be lambda. You are correct that it might be either lambda or lambda minus 1. That is correct. But which one it is going to be, that depends on what value do we have. So what happens is we can use this equation to figure out our mode as well. Now, as I said, as soon as I find my probabilities going down, that is the point where I get my lambda. That is the point where I get my mode. Okay. So how do we find mode using this? We will say as soon as my lambda by n becomes less than 1, my next probability, that is x is equals to n probability, will be less than my previous probability. As soon as my lambda by n becomes less than 1, multiplication will give me a lower value of probability. So this is the point that we are trying to find. So lambda less than n. So the point of n that is just beyond lambda, and then the n minus 1 value becomes equal to our mode. So the point of n that is just greater than lambda, that point is where our probability becomes lower. So our mode will always be n minus 1 of that value. Now, why I'm not saying that our mode is lambda minus 1? Because lambda is not always going to be a discrete value, but mode has to be a discrete value. Mode will not be any value in between. That is why I did not say it is lambda minus 1. So we'll find n that is just greater than lambda, and we'll say n minus 1 will be our mode. So if lambda is 3.5, then our mode becomes 3. If our lambda is 1.75, our mode becomes 1. If lambda is 2.37, then our mode becomes 2. Okay, so we will not say it is lambda minus 1, because lambda can be a non-integer value as well. Let's move forward. So this was all about Poisson distribution. So Poisson distribution, how do we recognize? First of all, a rate will be given. something per time. So here it was goals scored were 3 per match. Okay. And then they will ask us number of successes. Number of successes is a discrete distribution. We said find the probability of 5 goals were scored in a match. So discrete value, number of successes. And write another question. Let's say probability of a person dying due to lightning. Lightning in a year is 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 6. 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 6. In a city of population 10 raised to let's take 2 into 10 raised to 8. In a city of population 2 into 10 raised to 8, find the probability first at least one person dying due to lightning in a year. Second, at least 5 people, same thing, dying due to lightning in a year. So here, this is nothing but a binomial distribution. What do we have? We have probability of success and we have total number of trials. So we are saying X follows binomial 2 into 10 raised to 8, comma 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 6. But clearly 2 into 10 raised to 8 is a very large n. So when n is large, what do we say? We convert it into Poisson distribution. But only if theta is small. This seems small, but it is relatively small. We'll check n theta. N theta here will be how much? We'll have 2 into 10 raised to 8. So we'll have 10 raised to 8. Now in our calculator, in our physical calculator, we have a button for into 10 raised to. Here we don't. Here this exp is actually into 10 raised to, but you do have a calculator button for that. Into 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 6. Okay, I think I took the example a little bit wrong. Just make this 10 raised to minus 8 and make this 10 raised to 6. Okay. Make this 10 raised to 6 and this 10 raised to minus 8. And I wrote 0.5. Okay, just write 5 into 10 raised to minus 8 and 2 into 10 raised to 6. This is how we write our figures, right? Just write 5 into 10 raised to minus 8 and 2 into 10 raised to 6. So for that, I'll just I'll have just 5 into 10 raised to minus 8. So I'll get 0.1. Yeah, this is what I was going for. N theta is 0.1. So this is definitely less than 5. So this is less than 5. Therefore, we can now convert this into our Poisson distribution. So therefore, we'll say x follows Poisson lambda, that would be equal to n theta, or that would be equal to 0.1. We'll write it like this. Now, in actuality, we should write approximately, but I skip writing this. It does not really matter. So we have converted our binomial into Poisson. We have converted our binomial into Poisson. And we'll find our probabilities. First is at least 1% dying due to lightning in a year. The probability that our x is equals to, x is greater or equal to 1, at least 1. So that would be 1 minus probability x is equals to 0. So for Poisson distribution, we'll have lambda raised to 0, e raised to minus lambda by 0 factorial. That is just 1 minus e raised to minus lambda. 0.904837. And the second part, probability x greater or equal to 5, at least 5, I will say, is 1 minus probability x less than or equal to 4. Again, the same thing, I do not write less than 5 because it gets confusing. So I always write less than equal to, greater than equal to. Now we had in our table book, like we had binomial distribution table, we also have Poisson distribution just before binomial. What I do is I go down, I search my binomial, and then I go up from binomial and I find my Poisson distribution. Now in Poisson distribution, yeah, we did that, we did not. Okay, 1 minus, my mistake. Okay, 1 minus of this. So our answer is 0.0951628. Okay. Sure. So in our Poisson distribution, if you see here, we have probability x less than equal to x. Okay. And instead of our lambda, they have given mu here. So lambda is nothing but mu. And you can see x less than equal to, and we need less than equal to 4. But we'll have to find our mu. We go up, you'll find different mu's. We want 0.1. I don't know whether they have given for 0.1 or not. We'll just check. We keep on going, you will see the mu values are decreasing, and yes, we have 0.1. For 0.1, you can see less than equal to 4. They have not even given us less than equal to 4. That is because the probability is so large that this is almost equal to 1. That is why they have not given us those values, because you can see here this is 0.99985, and this would then become almost equal to 1. That is why they have skipped writing those values. But this is how we'll find our lambda here. That would be, let's say, if my lambda was 1.5, this is the lambda we would have taken, and if I needed to find less than equal to 4, I will go 1.5 less than equal to 4. This would have been my answer. But here, because our lambda was 0.1, We do not have less than equal to 4. So greater or equal to 4 is approximately, we'll say 0. So what does this tell us? Now see, probability of somebody dying due to lightning was such a small probability, right? 5 into 10 raised to minus 8. It's such a small probability. Still, probability of at least one person dying in a particular year is almost 9%, around 9.5%. So there is a very good chance somebody would die at least in a few years due to lightning. Why is that? That is basically because the population is very large. This is what is creating that particular value. That is why at least 1% probability of dying is around 9.5%. Okay. Now this is how actually insurance works. What happens is I can find the expected value of people dying. We know expected value of Poisson distribution is going to be R lambda, that is 0.1. So I'm expecting 0.1 people dying each year. That means I would say within 10 years, I am expecting one person to die. Now here our expected value was very small. Let's assume that we are talking about car accidents. So we say that probability of us getting into an car accident will be very, very small. Something like, we'll say 5 into 10 raised to minus 8. But every day there is someone getting into an accident, right? Because the population is very large. Because of this population, let's say, is 10 raised to 10. So our expected value here will be actually 1000. So we'll say in a year there will be 1000 people getting into an accident. Okay, that's a very large value, even though probability of getting into an accident was very, very small. That was because population was very large. Now because the population because the probability of getting into an accident is very small, we don't know whether we are going to ever get into an accident, but we cannot take that chance. That is why what we do is we take this risk and we give it to the company, insurance company. Okay, so we take this risk and give it to the insurance company, and insurance company asks for a small premium. The insurance company takes the same risk from a lot of people, take the same risk from everybody and charges each one of them a small premium. Okay, charges each one of them a small premium. And what happens is, even though the company does not know who is going to get into an accident, but they know that 1000 people in a particular year in a particular city will definitely get into an accident. So they know that they will have to pay 1000 people in a year. So they will calculate the premium in that particular way. Let's say if I want to if I would pay in total, let's say 1 crore rupees, in a particular year, and to 1000 people, so I'll say averagely I'm paying 10,000 rupees per person who is getting into an accident. Okay, so averagely I'm paying 10,000 rupees per person who is getting into an accident. How much premium should I charge? So I'll say in a year I'm paying 1 crore rupees, and I'm charging premium to 2 into 10 raised to 10 people. Okay. So I should charge 0.0005 rupees to each person. This is how premium is calculated. This is a very simple example, very primitive example, but this is how we calculate it. This is the concept of insurance. We say that even though the risk is very small, there is still a chance of that happening. There is still a chance of us getting into an accident. That is why we do not want to get into an, or even if we avoid, we might still get into an accident, and we do not want a lot of to spend a lot of money at that particular time. Okay. So we give a risk to the company. We say, if I get into an accident, I don't want to keep 10 lakh, 5 lakh rupees in my bank account just in case I get into an accident. So I'll ask the insurance company to take that risk from me. And if I get into an accident, company will pay 5 lakh rupees to repair my car. So they will charge us a very small premium. Why are they charging a very small premium? Because most of us will not get into an accident. Most of us will not get into an accident, and they will compensate that from everybody that they have taken premium from. They'll take a premium from a lot of people and give money to whoever get into an accident. And because they have taken premium from a lot of people, that unknown risk became a known risk for them. So for company, they know that 1,000 people will definitely get into an accident each year. So they will have to pay out to those 1,000 people. Averagely, let's say they are paying 10,000 rupees each person. So that becomes 1 crore rupees per year that the company has to pay each year. So their unknown risk, that is how investment works as well. But we'll talk about investment later on. We have different topics in which we'll be discussing investment. In different topics, we'll be discussing risk management or insurance. So these were all our discrete distributions. Here, the most important distributions are binomial, geometric, negative binomial, and Poisson. You should remember, I'll say PDF, that is our probability distribution function, then expected value and variance. You should definitely remember expected value and variance for all four of them, and you should remember PDF of binomial and Poisson distribution. Otherwise, you can definitely find this from your table. Again, you can skip remembering expected value and variance from a negative binomial, because you can definitely find that in your table. But what happens is, if you remember it, you are saving a few milliseconds in your examination. Okay, that few milliseconds or few seconds makes a big difference if you're doing it again and again, right? So if we are solving this, let's say if we get binomial distribution in 5 questions in our exam of 10 questions, we'll be saving around a minute by not just searching that in our table book. We should remember a few things. These are the few things that you should remember for binomial these distributions. Again, page number page number 6. These are our discrete distributions. First is binomial. These are PDF. You should also remember the range. X goes from 0 to n. This is our expected value and variance. Then we come to Poisson. Poisson, this is our PDF. Instead of lambda, they have written mu. You can also write mu, not a big deal. Expected value, variance. And we have negative binomial type 1. We have negative binomial type 2. And we know for geometric, all we have to do is put k is equals to 1 in negative binomial. So these are the discrete distributions. Then we have uniform distribution. We calculated for A, B, and H. Instead of H, we wrote D. We calculated our expected value. That was our A plus B by 2. You can see the variance here as well. Okay. And for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all you have to do is put H is equals to 1, A as 1, and B as N. You'll get all your values here. So these are our discrete distributions. Again, as I said, remembering PDFs is not that important. Remembering these values or finding how do we find expected value and variances are not that important. What you will find is that they give us random values, random such distributions for which we have to find these particular types of values. So that is why we should remember the different methods from which we have used. So right now, again, I am expecting you all to solve the basic sums of PDF of basic sums that I shared with you in the classroom app. Okay, solve those first, and we'll be solving some sums on Thursday to bring doubts. Okay, Thursday will be our doubt lecture. Thursday 6 to 8 p.m. Okay, one of the student is asking, the profit margin of insurance company will also be added to the premium. I'm just giving you a basic example. You will add your expenses, you will add your profit margin, you will add a lot of things. Okay, so I'm not giving you how actually the insurance company works. I'm just giving you a basic idea about it. How it is, it calculates values. It will add a lot of things. Okay. Then there will be discounting. There will be a lot of things that we have not included in this example. Okay, so right now I'm still expecting, where was our, no, this is the solution. This was our basic practice question assignment that I have shared in our classroom app. I will also share in the WhatsApp group. You can solve it, start solving all the sums and bring doubts. So we'll end our class here and we'll continue the learning part. We have continuous distributions as well. Okay, so we have 7 more distributions to go. It will take us 3 more class to complete this particular chapter. Okay, so we have continuous distributions that we'll study next Saturday. So we'll meet on Thursday and we'll be solving sums. Any more doubts?